They always called us a picture-perfect family. That's the phrase my mother used on Christmas cards. That's what my sister wrote on Instagram captions. And that's what my father declared in his yearly birthday speech. It was a lie. A beautifully edited, high-resolution lie. In our family, perfect meant controlled, curated, chosen by bloodline, by beauty, by status. And I, Mary Ellen Hargrave, was none of those things. At least not according to them. I'm the youngest of 4. The oops baby. The one who ruined my mother's cruise to Barcelona because of a surprise positive test. She tells that story every Thanksgiving like it's a comedy special. Everyone laughs. I smile. It's always been like that. They say I'm different. Not in the charming, quirky way, but in the inconvenient way. I didn't get the family nose, or the family profession. While my siblings became lawyers, surgeons, and tech founders, I chose graphic design, remote work, creative projects. Mary makes logos, my sister giggled once. Mary's a freelancer, my father corrected. Both sounded like slaps. So when the family announced the big reunion, I was reluctant. A 3-day event in Aspen, organized by my sister Lillian, who once called me the garnish on our family plate. Still, I booked a flight, packed my bags. Hope is a hard thing to kill, even when it's barely breathing. The Hargraves rented a luxury lodge. Huge windows, deer antlers on the walls, snow falling like a postcard. I arrived to see a banner that said, Hargrave Legacy, 100 years of excellence right, because nothing says humility like a golden crest. When I walked in, no one turned. They were all sipping mulled wine in their curated outfits, satin, suede, and self-importance. I was wearing a cashmere sweater I'd thrifted last year. Lillian's eyes scanned it like a TSA agent. Bold choice, she said. Vintage is brave. That night, the family photographer arrived. A thin, silent man named Owen, dressed all in black with camera gear that cost more than my car. Lillian clapped her hands like a game show host. Photos tomorrow morning at sunrise, people. Full formal. I nodded. I'd brought my best navy dress. Simple, elegant. It even had pockets. That night, I steamed it carefully and laid it out like armor. The next morning, I was ready, hair curled, mascara on point. I stepped onto the snowy deck where everyone had already gathered. They stood in perfect formation. 3 tiers, parents in the center, siblings and their spouses flanking them, like royalty. I took a step forward, and Lillian's voice sliced through the cold air. Oh, Mary, actually, we were thinking just the immediate family for this one. I blinked. I'm immediate family, I said, slowly, clearly, like maybe they forgot. My mother gave a polite laugh. Sweetheart, you know what we mean. The couples, the kids, the pillars of the family. You'll be in the candids later, of course. Pillars. I was, apparently, the dust under the pillars. Owen, the photographer, looked uncomfortable. His lens hovered in the air like a question. I looked at him. He looked at Lillian. She gave a slight shake of her head. He didn't take my photo. I stepped back. The snow crunched beneath my boots, louder than it should have. I stood there while they smiled and posed and laughed. My father said, "Let's do one with just the men." Then one with just the grandkids. Then just the successful siblings. Lillian joked, "Mary should take the picture." So I did. I took it. Every single slight. Every insult dressed as a joke. I took them and tucked them into my coat like daggers. That night, I didn't come down for dinner. My mom texted, "Don't be dramatic. We love you." Love. The word they used like seasoning. Sprinkled on top of condescension to make it taste better. I stared at the photos they posted online. There they were, a family of curated smiles and matching teeth. Captions like, "Built on legacy," "Hargrave pride," "No Mary," not even a tag. It was the erasure that stung. Not just the exclusion, but how natural it was for them to do it. Like I was an accessory they'd outgrown. 2 days later, I flew back home. No one hugged me goodbye. No one noticed when I left early. Lillian texted, "Send me the logo files when you can." Of course, that's what I was to them. A service, a skill, a hand to borrow, never a seat at the table. I sat in my apartment, scrolling through their posts. They'd even made a slideshow. Background music. Quotes about unity. I wasn't even in the blooper reel. And then something odd happened. I Googled Owen, the photographer. His company was called Golden Lens. I found his website. His work was flawless. High-profile clients, wedding packages that cost 5 figures, and an About Me section that mentioned he'd built the company on his own, but was open to investors. I clicked away. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. Open to investors. I've been saving money for years, quietly, consistently. I don't post about it. I don't brag. While they were flashing Rolexes, I was maxing out Roth IRAs. While they bought handbags, I bought stock. By the next week, I had a meeting set up. Not with Owen, with his assistant. Professional, polite, curious why I wanted in. I told her the truth. I'm a creative investor. Quiet money, I see potential. She smiled. 2 weeks later, the paperwork was in motion. By the time the ink dried, I wasn't just a stakeholder. I was the majority shareholder of Golden Lens, their new creative director, their new silent boss. And I had ideas. Big ones. Not just for branding or booking, but for how the company handled certain clients. Who we took on and who we didn't. Especially families who thought perfection meant erasing the pieces that didn't fit. And let's just say, the Hargraves were about to find out that pictures may be worth 1,000 words. But silence? Silence comes with a bill. I didn't announce it. There was no post, no email, no press release, no dramatic family group chat explosion. I simply became the owner of the company that had once refused to capture my face, and I waited. The funny thing about people like my family is that they never look down. They assume the world beneath them is a support beam, not a person, not someone watching, listening, buying. Within a month, I started rebranding the company. Subtle things at first. Our logo? I redesigned it, of course. Owen didn't even realize the change was mine until the files came from creative director M.E. Hargrave. His email reply was a single line. "Wait, you're that Hargrave?" Confirmed it with a smiley face. Because I'm polite, even in war. He asked if I wanted to pull out of the Aspen shoot. Apparently, Lillian had already booked him again. A New Year legacy session. Same lodge, same matching outfits, same blinding ego. I told him, keep the booking. We're professionals after all. But this time, the client experience would be slightly different. We created a new package. The Legacy Gold. Exclusive. Tailored. With a twist. I told Owen to follow my script exactly. He didn't ask questions. He just asked for a raise. Done. And then I booked a ticket. Yes, back to Aspen. Same lodge, same snow. Same people who thought I was invisible. But this time, I brought something with me. No, not a boyfriend. Not a ring. Not a glow-up makeover. I brought power. Wrapped in silence. Dressed in velvet revenge. When I arrived, the check-in lady smiled. Politely, "Are you with the Hargrave party?" "No," I said. "I'm with Golden Lens. I oversee creative direction." She blinked. "Oh, so you're—" "I'm Mary." She stared for a beat too long, then gave me my key. They'd booked the entire lodge, but I had the owner's suite. Golden Lens had arranged it. Lillian didn't know I was there. Not yet. That evening, I stood by the fireplace, sipping tea from a porcelain cup with Legacy Gold embossed on it. Lillian walked in wearing a sequined blazer that screamed, "Look," at me. She didn't look at me. At least, not until Owen walked in and nodded toward me. "Lillian," he said, "this is Mary Hargrave. She's our creative director now." The look on her face was a cocktail of confusion and constipation. Mary?" she said, blinking like she couldn't compute my existence. "Yes," I replied sweetly. Still immediate family. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Victory tastes better when it's served steaming hot and she can't swallow it. I thought you worked in design, she said. I do. Branding, media, visual storytelling. You know, the stuff that makes you appear more important than you are. A beat of silence. She adjusted her blazer like it was armor. Well, as long as it doesn't interfere with the shoot. Oh, it won't, I assured her. I'm just here to oversee. She smiled tightly and walked away. I smiled wider and stayed. The next morning, the shoot began. This time, we'd upgraded everything. Better lighting, real-time editing, and a new questionnaire each family member had to fill out for story-driven portraits. They love that phrase, story-driven portraits. Sounded expensive, exclusive. They had no idea what they were actually signing. I'd written the questions myself. Owen handed each of them a tablet and said, "Please complete this to help us personalize your shoot." Questions included, who is the emotional anchor of your family? Name a family member you secretly admire but never acknowledge. Have you ever excluded someone from a family event? Why? Which person at this shoot deserves more credit than they get? Oh, and the best one, if someone in your family disappeared from all future photos, who would it be? They filled it out like it was a BuzzFeed quiz. Smiling, clicking, blind. Then came the portraits. This time, Owen positioned people strategically. He asked for solo shots, emotional expressions. He encouraged introspective distance. My mother loved it. Makes us look like a royal family grieving something beautiful, she said. Yes, grieving. That was the word. Because in every group shot, I was there, and I wasn't. You see, I'd added myself in post-production, not photoshopped. No, that's for amateurs. I had Owen shoot me in the exact lighting and angles. Then I worked frame by frame, seamlessly weaving myself into their perfect little portrait. Sometimes I stood behind them. Other times, off, to the side, a reflection in a mirror, a figure in a window. Not haunting, not obvious. Just present, like the echo of a secret they didn't want to admit. And in the final photo, the big Hargrave Legacy 2025 shot, I stood in the center. Not smiling, not posing, just looking at the camera, like I knew everything. Because I did. That night, Owen sent the final images to Lillian. She didn't notice at first. She loved the lighting, the tones, the sophistication. She posted one immediately to her 72,000 followers. Caption: Legacy, love, loyalty. Within an hour, the comments started. Wait, who's the woman in the window? Is that a ghost or a family member? That center woman is serving serious CEO energy. Who is she? My sister was not pleased. She called Owen first. He passed her to me. Her voice was a strained whisper. Mary. What did you do? I directed the shoot, I said calmly. You put yourself in every photo. No, I just stopped erasing myself. You're making this about you. No, I'm making sure I'm not made invisible again. She went quiet. Then she said the thing that made my blood simmer. You're not important enough for this. And that's when I knew. The time for subtlety was over. So I leaned in. Lillian, I said, you hired me, paid for me, flew me, here, put me in the best suite, used my direction, my branding. My name is on every file, on every invoice. I paused. Not important enough? Honey, you just built your entire legacy shoot around me. Click. She hung up. But the images were already out. Her precious followers loved the mystery woman. They assumed I was some matriarch, a visionary. They reposted the portraits with captions like, she's giving royalty. That woman in the center, that's the real power. The rest looked like background noise. For once, I wasn't the garnish. I was the main course, and I hadn't even begun the feast. The next few days were delicious. There's a particular kind of satisfaction that comes not from screaming your worth into a void, but from letting others trip over your silence. And right now, my family was stumbling. Lillian went into PR crisis mode. She deleted the post with the group photo, the one where I stood at the center like the goddess of poetic justice. But it was too late. Screenshots had been taken. Reposts had multiplied. Comment sections were aflame with speculation. She tried replacing it with a cropped version. Except she cropped out herself in the process. Now it just looked like a bizarre stock image of sad, wealthy people in snow. Meanwhile, I was back in New York. I didn't reach out. I didn't explain. I let the silence marinate, and then I got the email. Subject line: clarification request regarding Hargrave family portraits. It was from Lillian. Of course. She used her professional tone, like she was speaking to a misbehaving intern. Mary, there seems to be a lot of confusion around the final photos from Aspen. We're requesting that you remove any images that include your likeness and issue a corrected version. This has caused unnecessary speculation online and is impacting our family's image. Regards, Lillian Hargrave Sutton, impacting their image. As if I'd spray painted their house. As if I hadn't simply stood where I was always meant to. I waited 24 hours, then I replied. Lillian, thank you for your email. As the creative director of Golden Lens and the majority owner, I have full discretion over final product execution. You signed a release agreement. The portraits remain as they are. However, if you'd like to schedule a reshoot without me, you are welcome to book our Platinum Legacy package. Pricing starts at $18,000. Let me know how you'd like to proceed. Best, Mary E. Hargrave. She didn't respond, but someone else did. My cousin Lauren. Lauren, the only person in the entire Hargrave clan who once passed me a note at age 9 that said, "You're the only cool one here." We hadn't spoken much since college. Her message was short. I saw the photos. You looked incredible. That was art. I smiled. And then another message from one of Lillian's former colleagues. And then someone from our old church group. All saying the same thing. I never knew you were so involved in photography. You have such a presence. You've always been the most interesting one in that family. It was like I'd been unearthed. Excavated from a vault of carefully curated silence. And just like that, inquiries started coming in. People wanted me to direct shoots. Not Owen. Not the brand. Me. Do you do legacy packages for non-families? Would love a session for my team, feminine power focus. Are you available for private shoots in Europe? The irony was almost too much. For years, they called me forgettable. Now I was unforgettable, because I took control of the lens. Meanwhile, my family was imploding. My mother sent me a voicemail. Mary, honey, I think this has all gone a bit too far. We're still your family. You don't need to prove anything. Just let it go. Let it go. The same woman who once asked me to take a photo of the real kids in front of the Christmas tree now wanted peace. I didn't respond. Instead, I scheduled a press campaign. Nothing aggressive. Nothing directly referencing them. Just a new brand launch for Golden Lens. A tagline. Every family has a shadow. We capture it. It went viral. It was cinematic, emotional, moody shots of overlooked relatives, forgotten matriarchs, distant cousins who held the family together, but were never in the frame. Narrated by me. Soft voice. Sharp words. For every person pushed to the edge of the photo, there's a story waiting to be told. People wept. People reposted. People sent me their stories. My brother cropped me out of his wedding photos. My mom didn't include me in the Christmas card because I gained weight. My grandparents only acknowledged the married grandchildren. It was a movement. The invisible heirs. That's what we called it. And it was no longer just about me. It was about all of us. I partnered with 3 mental health orgs, donated a portion of profits to youth creative therapy programs. Golden Lens became more than a photography company. It became a stage. And I was finally allowed on it. And then, the final blow. Lillian tried to book another shoot. She used a fake name, Elaine Stanford. Used her assistant's email, but I recognized the family name on the payment form. I approved the booking, told Owen to accept. We scheduled it at the exact same lodge. When they arrived, everything was perfect. The lighting, the scenery, the snow. But this time I was already there, standing by the fireplace when she walked in, her jaw locked, her eyes scanned for escape. "Elaine," I said. "So glad you could make it." She didn't speak. I handed her a tablet. A new questionnaire. This one was different. It had only one question. Who in your life did you erase? And what would you say to them now? She held it, staring, frozen. I smiled. Then I walked away. The shoot happened. Flawless, elegant, sterile. And this time, there were no reflections. No ghosts in windows, no woman in the center. Just them. Stiff, uncomfortable, incomplete. When the final photos were delivered, they were haunting. Not because of who was in them, but because of who wasn't. I left Lillian with exactly what she asked for. A family portrait without me. And yet, somehow, it felt emptier than ever. After Aspen round 2, something shifted. Not in them. No. My family remained as rigid and self-absorbed as ever. But in the world around them. You see, when you're used to holding the camera, you forget what it's like to be the subject. But now I was the one holding the lens, and people were watching. Golden Lens exploded. The Invisible Heirs campaign went global. TV interviews, podcasts, TEDx talks. Women from Morocco to Milwaukee were tagging their own childhood photos with Nas, "Put me back in the picture." And there I was, in the middle of it all, not smiling for anyone, just existing, fully. I became what my family always said I wasn't, relevant. My face was in Vogue's power-reclaimed feature. Not because I was a model, but because I was a symbol, the woman in the center. And the money? Oh, the money was delicious. We launched a luxury branch, Afterlight Studios, for legacy portraits of CEOs, founders, overlooked middle children. Fully booked 6 months in advance. We had a wait list longer than my father's list of excuses. Didn't just buy the photographer's company. I built a kingdom out of it. And then came the final invitation. Gold-embossed envelope. Expensive, but cold. Hargrave Sutton estate dinner. A celebration of family and legacy. Legacy. They really loved that word. Lillian's husband had just been named in Forbes Family Office's top 100. Apparently, this dinner was their way of reuniting the Hargrave bloodline. I almost laughed. They couldn't have made it easier for me if they'd mailed me a script with "insert dramatic entrance here." Still, I hesitated. Did I really want to go back to that house? The house where my opinions were considered difficult? Where silence was expected, and absence barely noticed. But then I saw the guest list. They were inviting media, a few trusted outlets, for a spread in a luxury lifestyle magazine titled, "What Legacy Looks Like." And I knew. This wasn't just a dinner. This was a final attempt to rewrite history, to present the Hargraves as something whole, unfractured, pristine, without me. So I RSVP'd, yes, and brought a date. No, not a man. I brought my photographer, a woman named Zora, sharp, poised, dressed like a Bond villain, with a camera that cost more than Lillian's face fillers. She posed as my assistant. But she wasn't there to assist. She was there to document. Because if they were going to curate a story, I was going to tell the real one. When I walked in, heads turned, I wore black, sleek, imposing, unapologetic. Lillian greeted me like she'd just stepped in something unpleasant. "Mary," she said with a frozen smile, "didn't think you'd come." "I never miss a legacy event," I replied, "especially ones with photographers." Her eyes flicked to Zora. "We already have a team handling media." "I know," I said. "We brought our own lens, more honest coverage." She didn't respond, just turned and walked toward the bar. Strike one. Dinner was opulent. Every course was plated like it had been shamed into perfection. They sat me at the end of the table. Far from the center, of course. But Zora moved, subtle, strategic, clicking away. No one questioned her. They assumed she was with the press, and, technically, she was. Mine. Halfway through the evening, someone raised a toast. Lillian's husband, David, stood up, wine glass in hand. "We're gathered here tonight to honor the strength of family," he said, "to celebrate our roots and the people who made us who we are." My fork stopped midair. "Here it comes." He gestured toward the main wall, now lit with a projection screen, and to present something very special, a visual tribute to the Hargrave-Sutton legacy. No, they didn't. Oh, but they did. The screen lit up, photos, dozens of them, family trips, holiday cards, Christmas time in Aspen, and I wasn't in a single one. Not one, even the old ones where I distinctly remembered standing right next to Lillian in front of the tree, had been cropped, erased, digitally airbrushed like I was a blemish, gaslight by slideshow. I felt a heat rise up my neck, but I didn't move. I smiled, because I was ready. When the montage ended, the room erupted in polite applause, and I stood up. "Lovely presentation," I said. The room went quiet. I clinked my knife gently against my glass. "I'd like to share something too, since we're honoring legacy." Lillian's eyes narrowed. Zora from the corner tapped a button on her camera, and the projector changed. Now my images appeared. Portraits of forgotten faces, aunts left out of wills, children labeled the difficult one, grandmothers cropped out of generational photos because they didn't fit the aesthetic. Then came my family shots, the original ones, unedited, with me in them, and then the new ones, with me front and center in the legacy gold portraits. The room was silent. I let the final image linger, a quote overlaid on my photo. "You can't erase someone who owns the frame." I stepped forward. Family isn't just who shows up in the photos, it's who's allowed to exist in them. And for years I was cropped out, in spirit, in conversation, in camera. But not anymore. Zora clicked one final shot. Lillian stood frozen. David cleared his throat. Someone down the table muttered, "Damn." I placed my wine glass down and walked out. No yelling, no tears, just the echo of my heels across their marble floor. Outside, Zora caught up with me. She raised an eyebrow. "You sure you don't want to stay for dessert?" I smiled. I already had it. The article came out 2 weeks later. Front page of Legacy Quarterly. Title: Redefining Heritage, the Woman Who Refused to be Cropped Out. My photo, the one Zora took as I walked out of the Hargrave-Sutton estate, coat fluttering behind me like I owned the wind, stretched across the top half of the page. The piece wasn't just about photography. It was about control, identity, visibility, and legacy. The real kind, not the kind printed on overpriced dinner invitations. The Hargraves were furious. Not publicly, of course. That would ruin the illusion of elevated detachment. But I knew. They'd spent decades curating a reputation that hinged on the appearance of unity. Now the world saw what really lived behind those glossy Christmas cards and fake family smiles. And better still, they couldn't sue me. Every image used in the article was legally mine. Zora had photographed the event as a guest. The faces she captured were in a public space during a semi-public event. And more importantly, Lillian had signed a full photo, release at the original Aspen shoot, which extended to promotional use. They handed me the power on a silver platter. All I did was say thank you. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. Golden Lens was thriving. We expanded across Europe and Asia, opened a gallery in Berlin called Negative Space, a tribute to every woman told to step aside. But I had one last move. One final, perfectly sharpened frame. I'd been quietly acquiring vintage photography, archives, forgotten negatives, estate sales, abandoned studio collections. And in one of them, I found something. Perfect. An old Hargrave wedding. My grandparents long before I was born. The original negatives were intact, and there she was. My great-aunt Liza. The one no one ever spoke about. She was in every group photo. Until she wasn't. I compared the negatives to the versions in the family archive. In the Hargrave albums, Liza didn't exist. She'd been cut out, literally. But here she was, smiling, centered, proud. I restored them, blew them up to museum size, and hosted a private exhibition. In New York, erased the women we were told to forget. It was an instant cultural moment. Critics called it a haunting reclamation of female presence. The centerpiece? Liza, in her wedding dress. Uncropped. Unapologetic. And beside her, a plaque with just 3 words. She was there. The Hargraves. Didn't dare attend. But I know they saw it. Because Lillian's assistant sent me a text. She cried. At her desk. Lock the door for an hour. I stared at the message for a long time. Not out of satisfaction. Not even revenge. Just recognition. Because somewhere beneath Lillian's layers of perfection and control and curated appearances, she knew. She'd become exactly like the people who erased Liza. And I had made sure the world remembered both of us. But here's the part. No one expects. I forgave them. Not out loud. Not in letters. Silently. Because forgiveness isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about letting myself off the leash. I was never meant to beg for a seat at their table. I was meant to build my own. And invite everyone else who'd ever been told they weren't important enough. And I did. Golden Lens launched the Undone Project, a global photography series dedicated to telling the stories of those written out of family, history, memory, survivors, black sheep, exiles, ghosted daughters, estranged sons, forgotten grandparents. We flew across the world, capturing them, not in front of backdrops, but in their real spaces, their kitchens, their gardens, their tiny apartments, their reclaimed castles. We didn't pose them, we honored them, and with every photo, I felt myself return to that little girl at the Hargrave dinner table, the one who was asked to take the picture instead of being in it. Now I was behind the camera, but also in front of it, in the gallery, on the wall, in the press, everywhere. My parents didn't speak to me for months after the exhibition. Then, one Sunday afternoon, a letter arrived. Not an email. A letter. From my father. It read, Mary, I've spent my whole life trying to keep things quiet. That's how I was raised. To minimize, to avoid attention. I thought invisibility was a form of dignity. I was wrong. You were always meant to be seen, and I see you now. Dad, I folded the letter, put it in a frame, hung it in my studio, next to Liza's restored portrait. We both earned that wall. Years ago, they said I wasn't important enough to be in the photo, so I bought the camera, then I bought the studio, then I bought the company, and finally, I bought back the truth, frame by frame,